we've recently had the cinematic release of Dune, and Dune is fundamentally about the threat that a philosophy or that a prediction, that a prophecy will shape your behavior in the present in a way that actually harms you. And a lot of these EAs, I think they have such confidence in their ability to predict the future that they wind up making huge mistakes. Obviously, the big one is SBF and FTX, and the way that even further higher-ups in the effective altruism community actually covered for Bankman-Fried and concealed their own knowledge of his behavior well before the crimes became obvious. Hi, my name is David Z. Morris, and I'm the author of the forthcoming book, Stealing the Future, Sam Bankman-Fried, Elite Fraud, and the Cult of Techno-Utopia. The book is about Sam Bankman-Fried, the infamous scammer who robbed about $11 billion worth of investor, lender, and customer funds from FTX to spend on various things, including real estate and venture startups. It's focused on him, because I covered that story and I was very close to it in my time as a reporter at CoinDesk, where not only did we kind of break the story and help bring down Bankman-Fried, but we actually wound up getting shut down, or not shut down, but we got sold and I lost my job, partly because we were so effective at uncovering that fraud that it actually wound up having negative impacts on my employer's parent company, Digital Currency Group, which owned CoinDesk at the time. So I was really in the thick of it. I saw SBF at the criminal trial. I attended almost every day of his criminal trial. I saw things like his parents crying in court. I saw the way Michael Lewis, the author who wrote this hagiography of him, responded when he got convicted. I saw a lot of this stuff firsthand, and it's all in the book. So it's centered on Bankman-Fried because that's the story where I'm at. It's also centered on Bankman-Fried because I understand crypto quite well. I've been writing about it for a long time. And so the book has a lot of details about, how crypto works. You'll learn a little bit about it. It's not the main focus, but you will learn a lot about it by just reading. But of course, the crypto element is only part of the book. And a lot of it has to do with effective altruism and Bankman-Fried's beliefs and the philosophical movements, and I would say more importantly, the nonprofit organizations that benefited financially from his crimes, and in some cases resisted giving that money back once it was clear that they were the proceeds of criminal activity. Effective altruism, rationalism, quote unquote, and those organizations all benefited from Bankman-Fried's crime. And more to the point, their philosophies, I argue, really enabled the way of thinking that led him to crime. And specifically, this idea of maximization, the predictability of our impacts on the future, and the sort of mathematical calculability of the universe. These are all kind of underpinning assumptions of these Silicon Valley attitudes that, frankly, are just really shaped by the idea that the world is an engineering problem. And I think that's pretty key to Bankman-Fried's activities as well. So really, the book is kind of a psychological exploration of not just Sam, but of this entire universe of these sort of rationalists. And, ultimately, they are heirs of the Cartesian error, heirs of error. The Cartesian error being this idea that the human brain is a separate entity that sits inside the human body, and that thought itself is the meaning of existence for human beings. Thought in this kind of calculated rationalist sense. Whereas, we now know, and the development of AI is proving in this very interesting material way that human intelligence is lived experience and based on lived experience. And, the rationalists and EAs, they completely dismiss expertise, knowledge. They don't believe in reading books. They they believe that they can come up with everything from first principles, and that implies that there's like logic that is going to solve all of their problems, and that they don't actually have to know anything. And this was really reflected in Bankman-Fried's behavior in particular. He defied the advice of all of his lawyers to do things like testify in his own defense, where he perjured himself, according to the judge in the case, more times than were worth counting. So there's a really clear connection between these philosophies and the way that people behave, and frankly, the disasters that they cause. You'll notice that there is some crossover here between effective altruism and AI. AI is, in its current form at least, based on this idea that you can calculate your way to intelligence, that you can do binary math that will eventually reach human-level intelligence. We're all just calculating machines to these people, and of course that also has ethical implications, basically having to do with their anti-democratic views of social change, which they believe is and should be driven by the people with the money rather than any sort of democratic process. One of the big things about effective altruism is that they believe in this thing called earn to give. They believe that people who have the capacity to become bankers or traders like SBF should actually pursue those jobs rather than actually, for example, becoming a teacher or a researcher or somebody who's going to have an actual direct positive impact on the world. They believe that money is a way of kind of de-risking this heroic project that, you know, even if you're not good at anything else, which Sam Bankman-Fried doesn't seem to have been good at much else, but he was good at making money, and that's enough to justify your existence and to make you feel good about yourself from an effective altruist perspective. You know, the goal of the book, to a significant extent, is to demythologize and demystify the future that the FTXs of the world and Silicon Valley more generally is trying to sell us in the form of investments, in speculation. I think one of the closest comparisons to Sam Bankman-Fried is Adam Neumann of WeWork, who came up with this entirely crazy idea, pinned it on positive ethics, and turned out to be a total liar. And I think that that is a really common thread in Silicon Valley, whether you're talking about Elon Musk and his, proposed plan to create an affordable electric car, which has never happened, even though that was key to the premise that got Tesla to its current valuation. And then when you look at Sam Altman, of course, he's a total liar, and none of the things that he says his AI tools are going to do are even possible once you start actually looking at the technology. So I think that is the main way that we can steal the future back from these people who are trying to sell us this sort of utopian fake vision that will never happen. I mean, look at, actually I'm going to endorse another book here, Adam Becker's More Everything Forever, which recently came out, and which makes the point that, Elon Musk's promises to colonize Mars are complete nonsense. They're literally impossible. And we have all of these things where people are promising us great things. We would love for them to be true. We would have loved for Sam Bankman-Fried to actually be a good person who was also getting rich. They would all love for themselves to be good people who are also getting rich. But that's not really the case. And what we need is critical thinking. We need people to actually look at what's being promised and figure out whether it's actually realistic. Because in many cases, it's not realistic. It's not even plausible. My book, Stealing the Future, Sam Bankman-Fried, Elite Fraud, and the Cult of Techno-Utopia, is out soon from Repeater Books. My name is David Z. Morris. Please check it out. I hope this has been a useful and interesting introduction. Thank you.